Welcome to episode 202 of the weekly Shared Security Show. And joining me once again are two legends of InfoSec,
in our own mind.
co-hosts Scott Wright and Kevin Johnson.
Legends in our own mind.
Yes, of course.
It's a new video game coming out this Christmas, Legends of InfoSec.
No,
it's not.
I'd play that video game.
You've played it for a long time.
A very long time.
Kevin. You're in it.
Every day you're in it.
Sorry.
All right.
So how you guys doing?
Pretty well. Looking forward to some good stories today, Tom. What do you got for us?
I got a quick question before we get into the story.
Yeah.
So I understand that there was a comment on the YouTube channel that said that, Tom, you are the Howard Stern of security and that Scott is the Justin Bieber. Now, I want to be very clear. I've never really listened to Howard Stern. I understand, though, that he's like a shock jock, right? Is that the
shock
jock? Okay, I want to be very clear that contrary to the co-people on Howard Stern's show, I'm wearing pants. And
okay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thanks for that information. Yeah.
I wanted to clarify, I am wearing pants. And my understanding is for Howard Stern, very often they're not.
It's quite possible. I have pants on as well.
So. Good.
Yeah. Good. Yep.
You know, Scott didn't say that.
No, Scott may not be wearing pants.
May or may not deny that.
Everyone gets to use their imagination. Lovely. So this week we have some interesting stories, and first I want to ask the question, because this is I think the question that is posed is TikTok listening to me?
Yes.
So this is a story. Scott, you had sent this link over to me. It was on Reddit, and someone was asking a question about they were doing some home repairs or something, of like putting caulk in their shower or something like that. And literally they didn't have their phone on them. They weren't scrolling through social media or anything, but literally they opened up the TikTok app and then there was an ad for bathroom caulk.
Well, no, it wasn't an ad. It was
an ad?
A TikToker.
A video of somebody.
Oh, it was a TikToker. That's right.
Yeah. Is TikToker the right word?
TikToker. Yeah.
They were TikToking, and
yes, that is the correct terminology.
So the implication is something in the phone was listening and interpreting what they were saying, and then presenting content that was relevant to that.
Yeah, I would. Now, this is something that comes up often, right? Hey, I had this conversation, and Facebook is advertising this. And time and time again, security people have looked at and come to the decision that no, Facebook is not, Twitter is not, whatever. In this case, I think it's the opposite answer. TikTok is very open about the fact that if you open the app and have the app running, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be active depending on how you answered the permission request.
That's true.
That TikTok does record ambient audio, and they're doing it. Their statement is they're doing it because you want to record a TikTok. But it is absolutely possible that they were listening at this time. I hesitate to say that TikTok is doing this across the board, right? This is a person saying something. My daughters are really into TikTok, and my youngest daughter set up a TikTok account for me. To show you how well I've used it, because I'm old and fat. My account is still like user 4,087,000 something. Like it's this number, right? And she tags me on things that she wants me to see. Regularly, TikTok shows me stuff that is relevant to the things she has shared with me and stuff like that. So I totally could see that it wasn't listening, that it's just a matter of if I was caulking my shower, I would YouTube search or Google search or whatever how to do that. And then very quickly I see that kind of thing in TikTok or Facebook. So I don't know that it is listening, but I do know that when I launched it the first time, it asked me to allow it to have my microphone at all times, not just when the app was there. So,
and I think, we're going to see more discussion of this as time goes on. People do share stories about, suspicions that something was listening to them, and there's nothing really to verify it unless there's some maybe scientific or structured studies that are done to test it out. But I think what's interesting is we're going to see more stories about people. They just believe it, right? Some people believe that this is actually happening.
But I would argue that some people believe that the Earth is flat and we didn't land on the moon. And both of those statements are false. So, I think that anecdotally we're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff. I will say that we've had lots of people I trust analyze these types of apps, and in general, they aren't listening.
That's fair, and I'm not necessarily going to believe it until we see some real evidence. But it's just funny. I was literally in a conversation maybe the day after I sent this to you, Tom, and it was a professional person in the IT industry. I can't remember if they're in security or not, but they said, "Well, everybody knows this stuff listens to you." It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the automatic assumption. I do want to state though that I did go through the privacy policy that TikTok has. It does not state anything about them listening specifically or recording you and your voice. But as some people on Reddit were commenting, it's the privacy policy is vague enough, right? In some cases that it could infer certain things.
And if you assume they follow the privacy policy is another thing, right?
Well, of course. And we all know, TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, and there's been accusations by at least the US government that it's a spy app for the Chinese government. So, there's that too.
Yep.
But the other thing I'm going to mention too, and we'll link this in the show notes. There's actually a really good site that breaks down privacy policies into like readable formats. It's called Terms of Service Didn't Read. I think TOSDR, which I think is a great name, by the way, for a site. But I'll link that in the show notes. It actually goes through and grades different, the privacy policies like Facebook and Amazon and others. So kind of eye-opening if you're like most people that don't read privacy policies. This might make you want to.
I'm still surprised how few people read any privacy policy or end user license agreement. I won't claim that I read them all, but I try to do an active effort of paying attention to things like that. And I know I'm weird. I know, like, I get it, but man, you just click through that stuff like, oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Now let me share everything with it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yep.
Exactly. What does it mean to go off the grid? Well, for most of us that are constantly relying on our phones, tablets, and laptops, it means shutting them off and doing some other activity like enjoying nature or spending time with friends and family. Now, you're probably a lot like me and struggle with turning off or putting down that smartphone because we always feel the need to be constantly connected. Listen, it's hard to go off the grid, but the good news is that there are products that can help. So that's why I recommend using a silent Faraday bag, which can instantly block all wireless signals, quickly taking you off the grid and giving you back control of your wireless devices. Check out their full product line at slnt.com. And because you listen to this podcast, make sure you use discount code SharedSecurity at checkout to receive 10% off your order.
You want your organization to be secure and compliant and to have a healthy culture. But your employees' lack of awareness makes you vulnerable to data theft, fraud, and compliance penalties. It's frustrating that the boring, static training content that's being used today has failed to improve employees' ability to defend against cyber attacks. At ClickArmor, we know that without using gamification, it's extremely hard to get staff to understand how to avoid threats. Our gamified simulations and challenges have provided a 50% average improvement in thousands of employees' ability to spot phishing threats. Go to clickarmor.ca/sharedsecurity to get your free gamified phishing assessment for up to 500 employees. You'll see quickly how gamified simulations can help your team be more resilient and compliant and help avoid costly ransomware and fraud incidents. Let ClickArmor help you go from being an underappreciated, stressed out fall guy to being an innovative leader who's the catalyst for greater productivity in your organization.
So, so Apple has started warning activists around the world that they're being watched by spyware.
Interesting.
Thought that was a fascinating story. So they, they've sent emails to several, I guess you call them activists or government critics in Thailand and other countries, El Salvador
and Uganda were two other ones.
Yeah. This is the first I've ever heard of a tech company sending an email like that out to some of their users. I guess my question is how did they identify that these individuals were being targeted?
Yeah.
I actually think this is pretty simple. Because keep in mind, the messages were sent out within hours of Apple filing its suit against NSO.
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
That's relevant.
And so, one, Apple knows more about what happened with NSO and Pegasus and all that kind of stuff. Right? So identifying, okay, these are the people, the phones that got this, right? That is well within their control to be able to see, right? Apple knows what phones install what software. I'm curious how much of the notification was to support the lawsuit.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I'm not saying they shouldn't have notified. I'm not saying that they're making it up. I'm curious, did that drive the you know what? We're suing this company because they did this bad thing, which I happen to like. Yeah. I like that they're suing,
not the bad thing. Yeah.
The bad thing. But the way I phrased that was really bad. But I'm curious. I know quite often, I do expert witness work. I've done cases, and while none of the lawyers I've ever worked with have tried to get me to prep better this way or something like that, talking to other expert witnesses, I've heard of cases where, and I have at least one case where I did not take the case, where when they came to me, they said, look, this is what we're trying to prove, and this is what we want you to say. And we want to make sure that you say what we want. And it was like, no, I don't take cases like that, right? So, it is possible that the lawyer said to Apple, hey, to strengthen your case, notify these activists. Because I could see the argument, you're suing a company for doing something bad, but you didn't protect your own users by letting them know the bad stuff.
Really good point. Yeah, it's a great point. So, but the timing is pretty convenient for this. The thing that made me think of is I didn't read the whole article, and just off the top of my head, it sounds like in real time they're notifying people that they're being spied on. And I'm going, kind of reminds me of the old Jerry Seinfeld joke about, like, if they can build black boxes for airplanes that are indestructible, why can't they make the plane indestructible?
Make the plane out of the black box.
If they can detect people being spied on in real time, why not just stop it?
Well, now let's talk about robocallers, right? Like, the phone company sells the robocaller the ability to make the calls, and then sells us the service to block the robocalls.
Right? Yeah. Crazy.
I'm knocking stuff over with my chair. Oops.
So it'll be interesting to see, like, if Google starts doing the same thing, even though, I mean, it's interesting. You don't hear a lot about Android devices being targeted by, nation states and things like that. I mean, I know they are.
You know why that is, right?
I suspect I know why.
The minute you become an activist, you get an iPhone. It's just part of the marketing.
That wasn't my guess, but it's a good guess.
Apple just drop ships it. Here you go. Oh, you're an activist. Here you go. Here's
my suspicion was that Android is so easy for apps to actually do this with that you don't need NSO's software, and it may not be necessarily a difficult thing.
No, my understanding is NSO's Pegasus did target Android as well.
It does, yeah.
So, it's just different. I think that people pick on Apple, and I don't mean pick on it bad, like they hate on Apple. I think that by being able to say Apple did this, or it gets a little bit more attention. It's kind of like bad mouthing Tesla, right? It's not that it's cool to badmouth Tesla or Apple. It's just the people who have Apple devices, right? There's a reason Apple fanboy is a phrase, right? There's a reason that Tesla fanboys are a phrase. And so from a perspective for articles, especially an organization like Vice that has such a storied history of being so upright and never causing any doubt of their journalistic integrity ever, right? That it just is convenient to call out the Apple stuff rather than both. But that's Kevin being cynical.
No, yeah, maybe a little bit, but I think there's also this kind of assumption that Apple makes more secure things.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that in the security industry. I remember a long time ago. I mean, I did some research around Apple versus iOS early on when the iPhones really first started coming out, and Apple did have the leg up from a security perspective over Android. Talk about device fragmentation issue and updating and all of that. So I think over time, people have just come to assume, well, if I'm concerned about my privacy and security, I probably should get an iPhone instead of an Android.
Yep, I've definitely heard that before.
Yes. Yep.
I don't think it's true, though. I do want to say that I do believe that Apple and Android both have positives and negatives.
It's a very good point. And I will say over the last several years, maybe 5 to 10 years, Android security has improved.
Yes.
On the mobile side, pretty significantly than what it used to be. So our last fun story.
Sorry.
Another submission by Scott.
Really? I don't remember this.
Yes, okay. Yes. So, the UK government transport website caught showing porn. So that's not a fun day for the UK government there.
Well, no, it could be a fun day. I don't know.
You work there.
It totally depends on what they're into.
But this appears to be a DNS hijacking scenario. Good old DNS hijacking.
Here's my question. Is it? And the reason I ask that is the article, and as far as I've been able to find anywhere else, so there was a CNAME, canonical name for the people who don't know DNS, but canonical name that pointed at an S3 bucket. The S3 bucket was serving up porn. They don't know, according to this article, whether it was DNS hijacking, where they just got the DNS entry to point to the other place,
right.
Or it is very common for government agencies and companies to use S3 buckets to host content and not lock down and secure the S3 buckets correctly. So if this site charts dot blah, 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 blah was pointing at the S3 bucket, but the S3 bucket was badly secured, it's very possible that it wasn't DNS hijacking. It was straight up, they published content to the S3 bucket. And all the articles I read said they didn't know. Like they said they don't think it's DNS hijacking.
They're suggesting it as.
Right. And the only reason that I'm calling it out, I'm not trying to be pedantic and give you crud for saying that, it's the other DNS hijacking is bad and happens a lot. But I would argue that the S3 bucket takeover is way more common because and I don't know why. Nowadays, back in the day, I totally get it. Building S3 buckets, it wasn't as clear when you were setting them up badly. That it was very easy for less technical or less experienced people to do it badly. It's pretty dang hard to share something badly in S3 nowadays, and yet we still see people doing it.
Am I remembering properly? Right. Was it the Capital One breach or something? Did that involve S3 buckets? And was that prior to the improvement in security of it, or was that one of the
Well, I won't say it was prior to the improvement. It's prior to the latest improvement. And the reason I say that is AWS has done continued enhancement of security time and time again. We can talk about mistakes they made, whatever. But so what we see today when you set up an S3 bucket, whether it's through the interface or the CLI or whatever, is way easier to understand, way more secure by default than it was even 3 months ago or then years ago, right? Like, because they just constantly upgrade it. And I don't, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. I don't remember where they were at when the Capital One, but I believe they had done some of it, but I know they hadn't done all they've done now. Does that make sense?
For sure.
So, but either way, I mean, I've told this story before when the Blue Cross of Florida website that, I was one of the people responsible for system administration of, we were linking to porn. And it was because there was a hospital that was in the network or whatever. I don't know what the wording is. And you could come to our website and you click through and you would go to the hospital website, and the hospital website had this really long domain. It was like a really bad domain name, right? And the better, shorter one became available, so they bought it. And they let the old one expire, but they never notified Blue Cross, right? Because you don't notify everybody that links to you. How would you even keep track, right? But so a porn company bought the old one.
Of course they did.
And we started getting complaints like, hey, you're linking to porn. And we're like, no, we're not. Oh, we are.
Why would we do that?
So, yeah.
Interesting.
You never know.
You just don't.
You're always one click away from naked people.
That's right.
That's Kevin's rule.
That is the internet.
Oh, what is that? Rule 85 or something?
Wait till the metaverse, Kevin. It's going to be far worse.
You're one glance away from naked people. I don't know what you would say there. It's still a click.
Clicks will be gone in the metaverse. That won't even exist anymore. So.
No clicking. I like it.
That's right. All right. Well, it looks like that's all we have time for today. But thank you.
Thanks, Howard.
Both legends. I love being on this show with two legends of InfoSec, and my shock jock personality comes through every week on this show.
We get so many complaints about Tom's shocking behavior.
Yes, my language and behavior is definitely a concern.
Every time I get off this call, I have to apologize for my kids just for having talked to you.
I know. It's insane. It's insane. But with that, I'll let everyone go. But thank you again for listening.
Thanks,
and we will talk to everyone next week. That's all for this week's show. Visit our website, sharedsecurity.net, for all previous episodes and to sign up for our email newsletter. Looking for Shared Security merch? Be sure to check out our online store at store.sharedsecurity.net. Don't forget, you can always find us on Twitter at SharedSec, and please hit that like and subscribe button below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.